When you're doing personal branding, always start off with draft words and then you dive deeper.
What do you say to those guys out there that feel like their story isn't compelling enough to put on social media or to get themselves out there?
That's exactly what the devil would say to someone who has a good story to tell. The most uncopyable part of a person is their story.
Look at all the biggest companies these days. Apple, they put a face to it. Tesla, they put a face to it. People are craving that raw authenticity.
She's turned down $2 million worth of brand sponsorships because they weren't on brand for her.
Wow.
Can you please, with the audience watching this, help Chris enhance his personal brand, which needs, by the way, a lot of help. All right, you guys, and welcome back to the locker room. My name is Jamie, and I'm just here with my two best friends, Chris and Bayley. And guys, today we have a very special guest on the podcast, don't we?
Oh, yeah. Very excited for this one. This is going to be absolutely awesome.
Can't wait.
100%. So, this man is known as the personal branding sensei and has worked with some of the biggest brands and celebrities in the world, such as American Express and Sonny Bill Williams. He's also won the prestigious Sydney Young Entrepreneur of the Year award, which is given to the top business founder in the entire city. He also partners alongside Janine Ellis, who founded Boost Juice, who's also worth over $75 million in something called the Business Academy, where they assist young aspiring entrepreneurs with a successful pathway to entrepreneurship. So please welcome to the locker room Australia's leading personal branding expert, Matt Purcell.
Let's go. What an intro, bro. Welcome to the locker room.
Welcome.
Thanks, boys.
What an entrance. And then, hey guys.
He's over 18, don't worry.
Nah, this is going to be awesome. We're super excited for this one. Obviously, we actually saw you speak last week, which was incredible at your seminar. Was that your first time actually speaking in Sydney, like doing your own event, right?
Yeah. It was my first solo event.
Yeah. Wow. No, it was awesome. We got so much value from it. Me personally, especially, some of the things that you said were really transformative and how it applied to my career and how it transformed my personal brand.
Yep.
So I'm excited to unpack this with you and break it down for all the guys listening today. So
it's a very important message, I think. Yeah.
Well, yeah. So I obviously wasn't there. I wasn't at the event.
What a dog.
Not by choice.
We actually invited him, by the way.
I wanted to be there.
This guy has like 6 dinners a week. He's got family events. Beautiful family, but
I had an important family event. But I have been keeping up to date with your content. I've actually used some of your content in my own business, and I find it very valuable. But what I want to do is I want to take it a little bit further back. So me and Jamie, we've had experience with bullying, right? In our youth, not so much now. And
online we do. Online we do.
Yeah, and
Too Jack, did you say?
Yeah. That's actually true. Yeah.
Pre-Jack.
So watching your journey and your content, I've seen that you've obviously dealt with some bullying as well. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to talk about how that experience was for you, and I guess how from a self-conscious young man who was bullied and maybe didn't have the confidence that you have now, how you've been able to become this successful entrepreneur. Take us to the whole journey.
Yeah, well, for those who can't hear my voice, I'm Asian. So
No way.
it's very strange to see this because my hardware doesn't match my software.
Close your eyes.
Yeah,
Like,
Your hardware doesn't match your software.
Yeah, I've got Asian hardware, strange software.
He's massive.
And so close
Wait,
your eyes,
what are you
boys.
referring to? Hardware, software?
Can you try and create an image of what I actually look like without
sound like
seeing
Bayley,
me?
actually.
Sounds like a he sounds like a surfer like Bayley.
Because you guys are from the Northern Beaches, right?
Yeah,
Well, you're
yeah.
from Newcastle, but you live in the Northern Beaches, so it makes sense.
Do you surf?
I'm like the fully clothed Asian guy in Bondi Rescue diving
I've
in
been on
the
there a few times as well, don't
I
worry.
thought I've seen you somewhere else.
Yeah, I made some guest appearances. Like, help me, I can't swim.
Never seen water in my life.
That's good.
So I look Asian, but I'm not Asian, and I realized that as a kid. It's just something really weird here. My parents look like Joe Biden and his wife. They're both
Oh
white
wow!
people.
Okay, wow.
And I looked in the mirror and said, I look like Jackie Chan's son. And then I looked at my sister, and she's Asian.
Okay.
So I was like, okay, we look the same. But I did realize something was really weird about me. And that was just the looks. And I asked them when I was about 4 or 5. I'm like, hey, Dad, Mum, what the fuck?
Yeah. What's going on?
What's
here?
happening? Yeah.
And they said, oh, well, we knew this day would come. You're adopted. I'm like, okay, what does that mean? And they're like, well, you have a mum and she looks like you, and you have a dad who looks like you, but she decided to put you in an orphanage because she couldn't look after you for various reasons, and we couldn't have kids naturally, so we got to have you. You know, we had to invest a lot of time and go through a lot of hoops and a lot of money.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay. And then later on in life, I asked who was more expensive, like my sister or me.
And who was it?
My sister.
Oh, wow. And she's from Taiwan, you said.
Yeah, so I was on special, I reckon, like South
South
Korea.
Korea, not North, right?
Yeah. But I realised I was very unique. So I was adopted, didn't bother me at all until mum and dad sat us down and said, what we're about to tell you won't change the way we love you. And dad stepped in and said, mum and dad don't love each other anymore, and we're going to live in different places. There's going to be different people, and we're going to have to move house from where you know is home. And I was like 6 years old, and it's like, what? And I didn't realise how much that would affect me until we actually moved, and mum moved to a housing commission. My dad moved to a jewellery store apartment above a jewellery store. His mate lent him that apartment for $50 a week to help him out.
Okay.
And I saw my mum struggle, like as a 6-year-old, from not worrying about money to now seeing mum get cash from the ATM and going, hey, here's the envelope for rent, envelope for food, envelope for clothes.
Wow.
And I remember her hands on her face one afternoon, and often she'd just be whispering, we don't have enough. Maybe I can call my brother. I don't have enough. And I'm just like, I'm freaking out. And I hated seeing that. So it created a lot of anxiety in me.
Especially as a 6-year-old,
it's
like it's crazy that you've got such a vivid memory of this, because such an impactful part of your life.
Yeah, it's not much you remember pre-6.
Yeah.
And I remember that year very fondly because, not fondly, but like just very distinctly, because I went to a new school, and that new school, I was the only one of 3 ethnic kids, and I got onto the new school bus right near my mum's house. And
This is in Newcastle?
This is Newcastle, and
Wow.
there were several year 6 students that thought, we're going to bash the shit out of this guy.
Wow.
So
Just because you're Asian.
yeah, and small and happy. I was like kind of like happyish on the outside, but I
Should have told
I
him.
was stood out like a sore thumb.
Should have told him to just close their eyes.
Yeah.
Oh, he's one of us.
Look at the eclipse. Yeah, and I was outnumbered, man. I could have.
Yeah.
I wanted a Jackie Chan more, but I couldn't. Like it was just outnumbered, and I kept it secret. So as a guy, even back then, I thought it was shameful to admit defeat. So I'd get home and cover my bruises, and then they went too far and started throwing me in whiz bins.
Wow.
And that's when I
crazy,
started washing my own clothes before mum got home from work. And so from the outside, some people would be like, oh, Matt's quite mature and deep for a kid of 6. I was like, on the inside, it's just survival. It's not self-preservation. It's not like maturity. It was just, it's
You had
amazing
to.
what
Out
those
of
things do.
desperation,
You had
almost.
to.
You had to develop these qualities.
That's dehumanization, which is
Yeah.
what bullying does.
How did these early memories or situations that force you to grow up or build thicker skin or anything like that, has that shaped the path or the career that you've chosen?
Yeah, I don't think anyone thinks about identity more than adoptees do.
Yeah.
Because you've got that contrast of I look this way, but I'm not really that internally. I started realizing that there's certain rules in society and with cool guys, cool girls, all the stuff, they're rules, the social construct rules. Right? But then there's the internal energy where you've got to decide who you want to be. And that took a long time. Actually, I'm actually really lucky. Like my mum put me into youth group when I was 12. And that was a really big moment because I was in the proximity of older, cool guys that I could aspire to be like that weren't assholes.
Cool.
Yeah.
And being in church and things like that was quite a great message because it talked about the fatherhood of God and talked about purpose and things like that.
Love that.
And then that's where I started. I think spirituality and Christianity really looks at the world upside down to how the external world sees you.
Absolutely.
Love
It
that.
looks at things because we're so keen for people's approval. We don't see people's souls. We just see their body.
Yeah.
That's really good.
You know what I mean? And I think that's where I was introduced to more depth. And I leached onto that so much. I got really deep, really young as a kid because I had a massive abyss of a lack of identity and purpose for myself. So lastly, boys, like, if you're not the boss, someone else is. And that means you're an employee, not the boss. So that means someone's going to tell you, jump this high, earn this much. And if you do it, you'll earn your self-worth.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
And I I chose my employer was culture and the cool guys. So you treat people like crap. You wear a certain thing in order for what to please people, to get that approval, to be able to feel that internal energy.
I think that's so relatable for so many young people out there. I'm sure we've even discussed this, that especially I think even as a guy, when you're a bit younger, I think we have this pressure to almost earn our value in a way. Like, I don't respect you unless you've done something. And I had this pressure even before starting this podcast. Like, I didn't feel like my opinion was valid unless I built $100 million business or I'd done these crazy things, because you're putting these other people on a pedestal who've done all these amazing things. But when you're young, you know, you're coming out of school, 18, you're comparing yourself to like 35-year-old Dan Bilzerian or something.
Yeah.
Dan Bilzerian or something. It's like, no wonder you feel like a piece of shit.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Not that he's the gold standard.
Yeah, not that he's the gold
But when
standard,
you're a
but
young
like,
boy,
that's
you
what
see,
people
When you're a young
aspire
guy, you
to.
think so, yeah.
See the money, the
And
cars,
so-
the women, and you think that's
You think it
that
is,
is
yeah.
the epitome of
Yeah.
success.
So
Yeah,
I think
100%.
what you're speaking about is so relatable for so many people out there. So
Yeah.
And so now, you know, you've become the personal branding expert. And I guess a lot of that is to do with identity and finding a brand's identity. So is that, as Bayley said, those experiences from when you were young, now becoming the guru, is that, I guess that really would have helped you?
Yeah. I think it's no coincidence that it's interesting that an adoptee who was battling with identity issues for most of his life, you know, comes to grips with his own identity, is now helping other people find theirs, either
That's awesome,
through
man.
youth, helping
Yeah.
youth with social kung fu, my verbal self-defense training, or through brands and personal brands. Because when you don't know who you are, you don't define who you are, then you're anybody's, and you become a project home amongst your competition. So like every single person looks like a project home if you just copy the competitor.
Absolutely.
It literally, like
And you said this in your talk, I remember. The
Yeah.
analogy
Yeah,
of the
this is
project
good.
home. Yeah.
Yeah, so I akin like building a brand like building a house. There's certain stages you cannot skip. And I went down a street of project homes for this video once, and literally it's Lego homes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they are functional, but they're forgettable.
Yeah.
course.
Yeah.
That's the key. And when you're doing life, with business, you can't have that. Blending in doesn't get you anywhere, obviously. So the thing that's actually missing is the design part. Is like the invisible part. The most uncopyable part of a person is their story.
Yeah.
But we focus so much on our skills, our hard skills, our resume skills, and all that, and it doesn't really get you. It gets like skills get you in the door, but the story and character keeps you likable in there. I know that from my story and from other people who aren't as skilled as I'm not as skilled as other people that have might been around longer than me, but I've got something else that these guys don't have. There's something. Like the best professionals you work with, probably, man, and you guys, is like the ones that get the most work. Like I interviewed Dave Hughes the other day. Hughesy,
Yep.
professional,
Yeah.
professional,
Love
like
Hughesy.
always early, like curious, wanting to add value, like straight up good guy to work with. You can just tell
All
that
the little things.
there's a reason why these guys are chosen more than others.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah, he's always in the public eye. He's always got a new show, a new something happening.
For sure. Yeah.
And people love him. People resonate with him.
Yeah.
yeah.
And something that I found really interesting in your seminar was, you know, obviously you've gone through your own identity struggles as a kid, and you've sort of weaponized that or utilized that more so to tell your story to help others with their own identity. And you know, one thing that you and I sort of speak about off camera is, and that you speak about in your seminars and to your clients as well, is the man, the message, and the mission.
Yes.
So that's that's a big pivotal core value of your work that you do, and I'm sure you do this in the few companies that you have. So why don't you just run us through that? Because obviously we have an audience of a lot of young men, and I think that's really important because without those 3 M's, it's like you don't really know what you're doing, right? And so how did you first come up with those 3 M's, and what role do they play in creating a personal brand that is, clear, concise, but also has value and depth?
Yeah, a meaningful life means you have to have a compelling mission, right? So in any movie that we think is interesting, there is a massive threat that can potentially take away everything you love. So it's the Death Star and your family, or if it's a big virus or not. And there's always a messenger or a man. And man stands for mankind. Like anyone who's PC, just shut up. Like it's not about men. Or
We're not PC on this
like
thing.
it's more right. There has to be somebody who responds to the call, and they come warts and all. They have to go on their own journey of internal and external battles.
Yep.
In the movies, I love this. Every single movie you see is you see what you see on the outside of Luke Skywalker. He's like a shy kind of kid, but then from the director's view, he puts you into his head of I'm not enough, I'm not worthy. Who am I?
Yep.
And there's identity stuff. So, in order to have a meaningful life as a man or as a person, you must have a meaningful, compelling mission to be on, which is like a massive problem to solve or a heaven to aspire toward.
Yep.
You therefore need a message that is inspiring to be able to communicate to other people that this is the reason why. This is the why, guys.
Yep.
And the man is, there always has to be, the Bible talks about the word needs to become flesh. So every single concept requires an ambassador. Every single idea needs some type of analogy, or we construct this bloody thing and say, hey, there's no one actually brave enough to be this person in real life, but we'll make them up, a character up in a story. So that's why the mission and the message is so important, because
So
sometimes
powerful.
you can have a mission and there's such need in the world. Just look in the news. There's so much need. But who's, like the Bible again, the harvest is ready, but the workers are bloody few.
Yep.
So we need good men. There's plenty of work to be done. There's a lot of change you can do, but you've got to look at yourself in the mirror and say, I'm enough. I can do this.
Yeah.
That's so good. So would you recommend, so almost like to the guys even listening, does that go through that framework, help people, find a bit of purpose and identity? Because we're all on the exact same page. We actually spoke about this last week, where unless you have like a clear mission and a vision and responsibility and accountability as a man, you almost feel like you have no direction.
Yeah.
And it's almost like reverse psychology, or like goes opposite to what we expect, right? You think, oh, if you have an easy life, you have a cushiony surroundings, you're going to be happy, right? But we find that it's the opposite. You really find when you have a mission, as you said, and a message to share to the world, that's when you feel the most fulfilled. So would you recommend almost like young guys to go through that framework and help build their own story to give
Find
themselves
your mission.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that you can just look through history at people that are respected. So find a person you respect. Let's look at Martin Luther King. And why do we respect the guy? Because, well, as a man, he grew up in a time of racism, so there was oppression. And all of us have our own oppression. Like we talked about bullying before, and it someone might have moved from a country to Australia and didn't know the language I know clients that have that situation. And that's part of their story, and how to overcome that. So Martin Luther he lived in a time with massive oppression and inequality, and became his mission, was like he was in the trenches. No one could relate more to that. And then that's why your story is so powerful. Because every single leader we see, Mother Teresa wasn't just a millionaire who just donated money from overseas, and it wasn't she went there, right?
Yep.
She lived with them, and he lived with these people. And then the mission was, like, let's make a world where all our kids can get along, not for, color of skin and stuff, but the character. And the message was, I have a dream.
Yeah.
That's so good.
Isn't that great? Like, you can see that.
100%. I think, even I get stuck on this, and a lot of us do with, it's like, what do we want to share to the world? And so when you sort of have those like three key pillars of you, as you've mentioned, it makes it somewhat more easy to actually understand, the trajectory that you're on. But what do you say to people that believe that, like the young guys out there, like, oh, who's going to care about my story? Who's going to care about what I've been through? Why should I showcase that to the world? Because you see in the media, like there's so many more people with more crazy stories or more hardship or more, battles they've had to face early on. What do you say to those guys out there that feel like their story isn't compelling enough to put on social media or to get themselves out there?
Great question.
I think people are more interested in what they believe. I think that's what, if I was your enemy, if you're listening to this and you think I'm vanilla and I'm boring as hell, that's exactly what the devil would say to someone who has a good story to tell.
Yep.
The way to defeat someone is before they even go to war, they're defeated.
Wow, that's
that's
good, man.
It's almost like the devil doesn't even want you to know he exists, and that's how he's won already.
Yeah. Like there's a great book by C.S. Lewis called Screw Tape Letters, and it's basically the idea of a senior demon is mentoring a younger demon, and he's telling them the rules of the games. Like, you can't just appear before people.
You're talking to an ex-possessed.
This guy knows all about
what
that.
you're saying is actually true, because there is a head demon and others that follow.
Yeah.
Anyway,
That's nuts.
my
Yeah.
2 cents.
Yeah, but it makes so much sense that if you because he's telling to the young demon, Screw Tape is the uncle, the big one, saying, listen, if you reveal your whereabouts, you actually give proof of the divine.
Exactly.
Yeah. Wow.
Exactly. So true.
Yeah.
Wow.
Love that answer.
So in order to be able to defeat someone, a prince, let's just try and tell the prince that you're not worth talking about or sharing anything to.
Let him believe that from within, and then he won't even go to war.
Yes.
Exactly.
Doesn't even
He won't even
so
believe in
good.
himself.
Stopped in his tracks. Yeah.
Yeah.
But you see it like even these days you see it with celebrities, you see with successful CEOs, they've all got a story. Whether it's like, Sylvester Stallone, where he didn't have money to make his first film, he had to sell his dog and whatever else he had to do, and then he made Rocky. Like it's such an inspirational story from, rags to riches, or he had some, as you said, some difficulty in his life, but people resonate with him. People want to see him succeed. People want to know more about him.
And look at all the biggest companies these days, like you mentioned, like Apple. They put a face to it. Tesla, they put a face to it.
Yeah.
And that makes the business so much more valuable because people, especially these days,
Personable.
I think people are craving that raw authenticity, which I think where your message is so powerful because it's different. The market's shifting, and the companies that are getting onto this early, that are weaponizing their founder, are seeing exponential growth over all the others because people want to buy into a story. So I think that's super powerful as well.
Yeah.
And every
it's good.
person has their own unique story. That's what makes them special. So back to your question, why does each person watching this, why should they feel that they're worthy? Because no one's like them. They are literally the only person in this world that's them. Unless you're a twin. But you know what I mean? Every single person has their unique story. It doesn't have to be the same as anyone else. It doesn't have to be as, crazy or amazing as anyone else, but that's their unique story.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'd also like double tap on that again and say that there are people like you that really don't know there's anyone else out there that is like
Yeah,
them.
so that's so good.
Yeah.
So if you're a guy that thinks I'm the vanilla ice guy and I don't know if I'm too boring, do you know how many millions of people who think the same about themselves?
100%.
Yeah.
It's like, I didn't want to share my wisdom or my thoughts or my input because I thought I can't compare myself to Jamie or
Yeah.
to you boys. Like I haven't been bullied. I had a good upbringing.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, 100%. And, speaking of, people's stories and being vanilla, I'm sure you've worked with a lot of, people that might have thought that way but have turned out to become, huge entrepreneurs or even celebrities, I wanted to ask you sort of who's someone like that you've worked with that's been able to achieve massive success that maybe, wasn't sure about their branding or wasn't sure about what to post online but became a massive success from their story?
The one that sticks out is 7-time world champion Lane Beachley. Like she's
Wow.
7-time world champion. Like
Wow.
that, talk about credible.
Yeah.
Like she was the number one. She won 5 world titles in a row consecutively. Beat Kelly Slater for that. Like she's
And you worked with her?
still do. We're very good friends. She's adopted too,
No way.
Wow.
and she had a massive identity crisis too. And she lived in a time where, she was at Manly Beach. She lives around the corner, and she grew up with the boys in the surf going, piss off. Like you're this is my, and it's a competitive thing for the waves.
It is.
And then guys will be getting 100 grand prize money and they'll be getting 10. So it was a massive, obvious gap between
That's a lot.
but she had to overcome all that stuff. But what I was inspired by Lane is she was self-aware enough after self-sabotaging herself. She used to drink, rock up drunk to competitions and still win from pure talent.
Wow.
And don't you hate that when you're like playing soccer and there's that guy that can get like absolutely destroyed the night before and play a better game than you that's been preparing for 2 days? I used to
There's those
sack
guys.
parties. I used to sack, drinking back in the day, everything for football. And the guy that would not have any sleep would outperform me by tenfold. Yeah.
And I asked her about like, how the frig did you do that? And she's like, that's pure just the gift of youth.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's the gift of
Could
youth.
never do that anymore.
And it runs out like a potion.
Yeah.
But what inspires me about like why I brought her up is because she worked very, very hard on understanding her value outside of the external energies telling her you're this, because if she believed that forever, she knows that she's going to be a has-been.
Yeah.
She was, you retire in your 30s and then my identity disappears. So she worked really hard on creating a personal brand before it was a trend with Roxy brand or with building up enough prize money with other sponsors like Toyota and stuff to buy a house and get in the property. So she's been really savvy. And I think she's turned down, Lane's told me this like before, she's turned down $2 million worth of, I'll say $2 million worth of brand sponsorships because they weren't on brand for her.
Wow.
That's so
Yeah.
interesting.
Isn't that so
you,
cool?
you were talking about this, like, I don't know, was it last podcast or the podcast before, where we were talking about knowing your value.
Knowing your value.
And knowing your morals as well. And knowing who you are.
Yep.
Because you can't just grab everything that just comes to you. You can't just grab it.
So
Whilst the first reaction might be, oh my God, yes, I see money. I need to grab it. This is it. You got to say, hang on a sec, take a breather, think back. What are my morals? Who am I? And does it align? And that's powerful that you just literally just said that and we're talking about
we're literally talking about it because I since becoming a Christian 2 years ago, I stopped doing brand deals for certain companies. So I won't promote an alcohol company or like something that promotes things that are outside my values. And it's hard sometimes because they offer a lot of money and it's like that dangling carrot. But you see a lot of people that go and chase those things, but it's always for a short-term pleasure. So I think sticking to who you are truly and what you believe in is so important. And yeah, I'm sure you work with a lot of people that have, as you just said, Lane has had to do that as well.
Yeah, you got to know when you're on brand. Basically, you know who you are and you know who you're not. Right, and the 3 G's that really take down good men, in my view, are glory.
I know what one of them is.
Gold, and you guess it. What is it?
Grass.
you hyped it up and then you couldn't deliver. Grass.
Nah, I know
Like, yes.
I know it.
Girls.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Girls or guys?
So true, though.
Asian
That's
telepathy.
so true.
Yeah.
They,
honestly.
they get everyone.
We said 1, 2, 3. Grass, girls.
But bro, not grass, but what you said, girls, dude.
Yeah.
Like you're speaking to everyone here.
I know.
Like the high. I think here's the thing that a lot of guys got to know. Like, be careful what you wish for. So if you want to have a great career and be in the public eye, like the Matrix, the woman in the red
Ooh, do
dress.
we?
Yeah.
Women in the red dress.
Yeah.
Yep.
That seduction of the woman in the red dress comes in many forms to people, gold, glory, or girls. So
Not grass?
That's such a good analogy.
Or maybe it's grass. The
Grass
fourth
to
one
me.
is grass. Yeah.
Grass gets you.
Add it in.
Because I reckon like the higher you get, it's the more famous you get, the more money you get, the more stuff you get, the more harder it is to turn down a 12 out of 10.
100%.
So it's like you're saying no to 5 out of 10. So like,
Yeah, that's fine.
Then you're
That's
saying
such
no
a
to
good point.
yeah. And then, can you say no to a 20 out of 10?
Yeah.
And you're like, I've already chosen.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, that's so good.
Yeah.
That's so good.
Yeah.
Speaking
so-
of my grass analogy, it's like the grass is always greener.
Yes.
Yeah.
See, I was getting somewhere with
Yeah.
the whole analogy.
Yeah,
guys.
you brought it back. Have you had to turn down a few 12 out of 10s?
Multiple. Let him whip out his list.
Yeah.
seriously, yeah.
That's
yeah.
mad. That's mad.
That's mad. Yeah. No,
That's
respect.
mad.
How
I
do you
respect
do that?
Yeah.
It's rare.
That's when you know
it's
you're-
rare.
it's
I think
mega
a
successful.
lot of guys listening now would probably have had that issue, or maybe weren't strong enough to be able to say no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's brought some of the greatest men down. That's for sure.
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
you
for
know
sure.
that song Hallelujah? Like,
Yeah.
her there was a secret chord. There's that part around you saw her bathing on the roof, the beauty in the moonlight over few. It was about David, King
Yeah.
David.
David
Yeah.
and Goliath, he defeated Goliath but couldn't defeat what was his name?
Bathsheba.
Bathsheba, yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
he saw her bathing
Yeah.
on the roof, and
Yeah.
There
he
you
was meant
go.
to be at war, and he said, "I'm the king, bring her up here," and they made love, and he got her pregnant.
Yeah.
And that's in the Bible.
It's a crazy story.
Yeah.
That happened a lot back in the day as well.
Oh, yeah.
They'd throw away their whole kingdom,
Just for a
literally
woman,
everything they have.
Gold, glory, and girls.
one girl.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
honestly.
It's so true.
I'd love to take this in a completely different direction. Well, not completely, but I'd love to touch on more so the monetization side of it, right? Of personal branding, because I think in the locker room, that's one thing we're big on, is giving the people out there the skills. And business is a big skill, and I know that's something you're very well versed in. So I want to go into more the business side of things, and potentially, I'm happy for you to take this wherever you want. But is there a way where people can, not weaponize their story, but use that to, to make more money or to advance their career? Or I know your story is quite versatile as well. You can climb the corporate ladder more influential, or be more influential when you walk into a room, be a better leader. I'd love to touch on the monetization side of things in business or career. If you have any thoughts,
How can you monetize your story?
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Well, I think, let me take an example. Nike is credible, and I think they use athletes to remain relevant.
right.
Yeah.
That's so good. Yeah,
That's
So
true.
there's 2 buckets. There's relevance and credibility. You can be one without the other. You can be relevant but not credible. You can have a lot of followers on social media, entertain, and you have a gig economy. But I believe if you don't have credibility and turn that relevance to credibility, you're just living gig to gig.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're not an entrepreneur without an offer.
Yep.
You're an entertainer.
Yeah.
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 So if you're relevant and you can make your story a marketing tool where marketing partly involves bringing people traffic to something.
Yep.
Right. So traffic's one source of business needs, but then there's an offer that you got to give them, which is, well, what is my offer? So many people don't have an offer that's worth following. There's no real survival thrive offer there. Like you're only really valuable as a person if you can help people get to a certain place or take away pain.
Yeah.
It's very, very simple. Survival thriving. And the third thing is you've got to convert them then. So if you can build relevance, which is on social media, which you boys do so well, you're masters at it, that gets eyeballs, an audience. But so many people can get to that point and be like, how do I turn that into a business? You can do it so many ways. Like I met the Inspired Unemployed boys and
They're
they
awesome.
got famous through TikTok and all that stuff. Real funny.
Entertainment,
But there was a problem. Like, how do I kit this up till I'm 60? Like, how do I?
100%.
How's this
The
not
golden
just a
question.
stint?
They had the relevance, but no
We
credibility.
all think about this.
We all talk about this 24/7.
And then what do? They partnered and JV'd with what's the big company called?
Yeah, the beer company.
Better Beer?
Better Beer,
Yeah.
which was the
Clever.
fastest growing beer company ever.
They
Man.
absolutely smashed that.
They got it at the right time as well.
So clever.
Yeah. So they attached their story and their relevance to something credible
Yeah.
that will give them
Makes
monetization.
so much sense.
Like, it's got to be believable, I think, personal brands. Like
Yeah.
The Rock's personal brand is believable because there's certain attributes about him that it makes sense that he's got a tequila. He's always
Yeah.
loved that stuff. It makes sense that he's releasing
He's so,
supplements.
Make
he's
sure
so
it's brand
clever with
aligned.
that.
If you want a successful long-term business, all the guys we speak to, our friend Simon Beard, invest heavily into brand. So that's like the difference between being a project home and being a full custom design home is you invest in your identity, you figure out something unique about you. And as you're building content and you're putting yourself out there, it's building this audience around, they're going to want to aspire to be like The Rock.
100%.
And when you think, oh man, The Rock's so cool and he drinks tequila, they're thinking, what does The Rock drink? And they're looking up, Google, what does The Rock drink through? Because in marketing, there's marketing of intent and non-intent. So intent is I'm Googling, what does The Rock drink? That's intent.
100%.
Non-intent is I'm putting ads into your feed and you're not looking for me, but I'm forcing my attention on you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like that, and that's millions of people follow him. So he's like,
100%.
tequila. Wow, I'm going to have what The Rock, because it's going to make me feel
100%.
like that.
100%.
Yeah.
I actually did that during the World Cup. So Ronaldinho, everyone knows Ronaldinho. When he was at his prime, he was like one of my favorite soccer players, right? And he used to do collaborations with, I'm pretty sure it was Pepsi, right? He used to be on the actual Pepsi. Like there'll be his photo with him with a soccer ball, right?
Nice.
I would only, every time I'd go to the store, I'd literally look for the bottle with him on it. Because I was young. I was like, he must be drinking this. I'm going to be like Ronaldinho. I'm going to play better soccer.
That's how you play better.
He probably never even drank the drink, right?
He couldn't have. No
He
chance.
could have, but like I used to literally drink the Pepsi only with him because I thought that if he's on it, he's drinking it, and I'm going to be better at soccer.
And that's the power.
That's the power of the
brand.
marketing. It's
powerful.
of the
So
brand.
powerful. Yeah.
Pepsi knew he's the biggest star at the moment. They aligned with him, and so many young men would have drank that drink, similar to me.
Yeah, and I think people get so consumed and swayed by views and followers. They don't think about their branding. And, me and Chris talk about this all the time. So we're always like, obviously we're creating content and we're doing well, but like the branding and how to monetize that long term is such a whole different ballgame. And, I've been in the social media industry for about 10 years now.
Yeah, wow.
And even I'm still trying to figure out, what's my unique selling point, or what can I bring value to my audience with that's not just, a video that's going to get, ad revenue or views or followers. Because there's so much more to it. And the Inspired Unemployed was a perfect example of, some guys that were really and still are super relevant. And they took that relevancy and that hype to then distribute their business ventures into something of their own. And it's so clever. And, speaking of, personal branding and trying to, make it better and improve and everything, we actually have a little game for you that we'd like to play.
Like it?
It's called Personal Brand Me. And basically what we'd actually love for you to do is there's a guy over here in the brown shirt. I don't know if you've seen him before.
Oh, yeah?
That's me.
Yeah, he's a bit small. You can't really notice him from afar. And, he's been a very close friend of mine for many years now. And we've been through a lot together. But one thing that I'm a little bit concerned about for Chris over here is his questionable videos
Wow.
right.
on
right.
TikTok and
Wow.
Instagram. Bayley, would you like to say anything?
Yeah, all I will say is his personal brand sucks.
Wow. Wow.
So,
Get it all out, boys. Anything else?
He needs so much help. He gets millions and millions and millions of views, but he needs to weaponize it. And we got to. This is what we love about the locker room. We got to be straight up and honest.
We do,
bro. We want to help you out. We got the personal brand sensei in the room.
Australia's best personal branding expert, right in the room with us, and I'm sure he can help you. You know, make your videos maybe a little bit less cringe.
I'm happy to check my ego. That's fine. I'm always, as you said, the locker room. We're always trying to better ourselves.
We want to level up.
We never think we're the best. We never think there's nothing we can learn. There's always more to learn.
And if your mate's doing something that he could improve, you tell him straight.
100%. I mean, be a bit more gentle. That was a bit savage. Is there anything else trying to get up? I'm small. My branding's shit. My shirt's shit. Like anything else before we got it.
That's like a canvas for you, Matt. So what we want you to do right now is, can you please, with the audience watching this, help Chris enhance his personal brand, which needs, by the way, a lot of help.
Wow.
All right, boys.
Careful what you say. Nah.
Let's go. I'm excited.
10 grand. No joke. All right, Chris. So, you gave away your tell to me a little
here we go.
when you first said you were bullied and you were a big boy, right?
I wasn't like fat.
You're just like large, yeah?
Solid, yeah.
Yeah. When was the moment where you became confident in yourself?
There was a year I remember vividly. So there was a year that we had a swimming carnival, right? At the beginning of every year, we had a swimming carnival. And when I started training wasn't big. The gym wasn't big. Like it was a more taboo thing. Like if you did it, you did it. So one of the school holidays in Australia, after the year, there's 8 weeks of school holidays. In that 8 weeks, literally every single day I went to the gym. I worked out when everyone was out, seeing their friends, running around, whatever they're doing. I was at the gym every day. And to the point where everyone would like pay me out, like, bro, what are you doing at the gym? But I vividly remember that swimming carnival. After the 8 weeks, you know, everyone gets to the swimming carnival. I go for my race, take my shirt off. Everyone's like, wow, who the hell is this guy? He's jacked, you know. People started getting like praise, respect. People that were like paying me out, asking me like, can you help me? Like, can you train me? All these people who used to pay me out came back around and were like, bro, teach me.
That's crazy. Yeah.
Girls give me more attention. The boys want to be my friend. And then I think at that point, I was like, hang on a sec. I'm a little bit more confident now. And from then, it just got better and better.
Yeah, it's straight away. The word I had, because when you're doing personal branding, I always start off with draft words and then you dive deeper.
Yeah.
And I think this guy here is the king of conversations.
Yeah.
Like the king of conversations. So whether it be journalism or entertainment, talk to anybody. He'll interview the president one day, this guy.
Yeah.
You,
Thank you.
I think
you on the other hand.
it's generic to begin with, but it's got to do with confidence. So confidence is sometimes earned and received. You can pass around confidence, but you can like praise people and compliment people that way, and it helps with confidence. But that story alone showed a transformation before and after. But it was more than just for external praise. It was for internal validation.
100%.
And before that transformation happened, what were your challenges? Like we talked about that's your heaven example of I got more friends, more attention, more respect.
Yeah.
What was before that?
I think the biggest thing for me was, I guess, just the being different, the being a different race. Other than that, to be honest, I was always good at sport, so I had that in my arsenal. I did excel in that, and I guess that gave me some edge, but it wasn't enough to make me, you know, super confident. And I think that just being different to everyone around me in the school was probably, I guess, my biggest challenge at that time.
I got another word for you. It's gonna sound sus. Crutch. So like
Crutch.
Get this right. So every story about a hero generally involves them going through a process where they have to stop leaning on their crutches.
Yeah.
So you become a man when you take the training wheels off. You throw away the crutches, and you throw away the idea of, Dad, can I have more money?
Yeah.
Or can I get more attention? Can you introduce me to the girl? Like,
Yeah.
you let go of all that crap, and you stand before people the way you are as a proud dude. And I think there's an opportunity with your platform, with your physique and all that, and to share more vulnerable stories about how every single man, you can call this out like and be more universal with every Australian. Every time you use the word Aussie or nationalism, it makes you more authoritative.
Yeah.
All Australians struggle with this. All men struggle with this. There's something that holds us back from pursuing something. So it could be you're afraid to take your shirt off.
Not anymore.
Or it could be
Yeah.
so these men just need one thing to help them overcome
100%.
Yes.
to let go of one crutch or one thing.
Yeah.
And first of all, it's your fitness.
Yeah.
So
That's
that
a
was
big one
that's
for a
one
lot of
thing.
guys as well.
But they need like that 8-week thing transformation. The 75 hard challenge, I just finished it, and I saw people in my WhatsApp group, for example. I saw this effect on people. Like I love guidance. I love being told a plan.
Yeah.
And I'll just do it every day. And at the end of it, they just go back to normal.
Of course.
But like, there's something about men respond really well to do this and it'll get this.
Yeah.
And you see that with PT and to end
100%.
motor. So I think in every area of your life, which you can't just be, you're more than just muscle.
Of course.
Because talking to you, intelligent, you think deep, and you're funny as well. There's more than just that.
Yeah.
So we've got to look at layers of the offer for you is maybe the bottom level is let's just get you right physically because that's the foundation of
Yeah.
everything. Then from that, without moving up the ladder, you'll just remain insecure about, I always have to maintain it because that's my identity.
course.
now.
That's so good.
Of
So
course.
you build a stack up, so you build a program around that.
Yeah.
Then build up a program of, well, you got to feel secure.
Yeah.
So let me find some experts on like how to, I'll run a PT business and I bought a house.
Yeah.
Or like it's something around, so you're building this hierarchy.
Okay.
Like a school, like a dojo has a white belt to black belt. So there is a path for people to remain with you for, and you're their sensei.
Yeah. Okay. Wow.
So there's a
I
graduation.
really like that.
One
That's
thing
awesome.
about Chris as well, because he's been like my best mate for 15 years now. Like, there's more to him than just the physical appearance.
Yeah, you can see
one
that.
one other strength that I think that you have, Chris, is you're extremely empathetic and emotionally intelligent. So whenever I had problems, I'll go to him. He's my number one person.
Yeah,
Sorry,
nice.
Bailey, you're number two. And
no.
and like, and I think that sharing more of your stories and being more vulnerable, because people see you from first glance, they're like, well, I'm either intimidated or I just will never achieve that. When they can actually see that you're a real human being, you've got story that leveraged how you got to where you are.
Yeah.
That'll be powerful. And there's so much more to you that I think
meets
you
the
could be
eye.
sharing on social
Yeah.
media. I think that, your empathy, emotional intelligence. And the first thing that he always does when he meets people is he compliments them.
Yeah.
If I saw you in the street, I'd be like, oh, this big Jack guy, he's just going to care about himself and be self-engrossed and all these sorts of things. And but the moment, what shocks people about him is that he's straight away onto the other person. Like, how are you? You're so good at this. When he met my cameraman Nick, the first thing I just remember, like, the first thing he did was like Chris was so interested in Nick. It wasn't about him at all. And Nick, that stuck with Nick for many, many months. He used to bring it up. Man, Chris is such a good guy. So yeah, I think for him particularly, like, there's more than meets the eye.
Yeah, so I'd encourage you, Chris, to write down, this is a bit unorthodox, but I tell everyone to do this.
Yeah.
Write down all your insecurities in one column. All the easy things you could be an easy target for. Like if you had your shirt off, you'd be like, oh yeah, what could a bully say about that
Yeah.
online to you?
Yeah.
Do an M&M and smash it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and address all that stuff. Because I see guys that are ripped on Insta and TikTok, and they're showing their daily routine and stuff and just eating meat, nothing else
Yeah.
at the
I
moment.
just did carnival for 6 weeks.
Yeah, how was
Yeah.
how was your craps? Was it all right?
It was pretty bad.
Yeah.
I'm off it now.
And it's just one dimension, because you want to beat the bullies with the punch and say, like, another guy with his shirt off, all that stuff.
Yeah.
You need to be upfront about that, be very self-aware. And then you need to do a timeline exercise of the major events in your life that formed you.
Yeah.
So, like, when did you get your heart first broken? When did you think you were fat or not worthy? When
Yeah.
and ring your mum, ring your friends, ring your brothers, ask these boys, tell me stories which I was just totally low.
Yeah.
And craft those stories. I talk about there's story gathering, story crafting, and storytelling. So gather all the stories together.
Yeah.
And then the story crafting part is find points to your values. Because eventually people will look at you not as an entertainer, but they'll see you as a archetype, like as a knight,
Yeah.
or as a
Wow.
Spartan.
Yeah.
So when I say the word Spartan, in the Greek, that they had the reputation of one man representing seven.
Yeah. Wow.
Okay. And that's an archetype. And you can act like a Spartan, dress like a Spartan, and you can create your own Spartan archetype for men.
Wow.
I
like that.
really like that. I can really see how I work in digital marketing as well, so always building funnels and monetizing frameworks. But I can really see how those more intimate layers can almost be like a monetization framework where literally every guy runs through those same emotions, feelings. And I can just imagine even having a podcast is the perfect, I guess, opportunity to tell those stories where guys are listening. They're obviously going to buy into that story if you can build that framework and then almost create, monetize it, where you can almost take other guys through that same journey, because that's where, from what I see, guys, as you said, buy into the story and will be very happy to pay a big amount of money if you can help them be their sensei or guide through all those insecurities that every man suffers with. So I can really see the monetization.
Once
structure
again,
of
when people say, "Oh, make valuable content," too vague. It just means taking them away from pain and towards something better.
100%.
And for you in that program, it was just an idea. You're addressing the pain. So pain is the pitch.
Yeah.
So if you can be really forward with your pain, that is like a great content piece.
100%.
And then people, it's really hard to sell personal development. Really is.
Yeah.
But programs are like your sell for that, like retreats, programs, all that's the transformation stuff. But if the pain is big enough and you hit that pain, and the program is the pain relief,
Yeah.
like, and you're the man, the message and the mission,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
You've
sure.
got there to go, oh yeah, I can be like Chris, he got through it.
Yeah.
that's so
And,
good.
and
That's
I
mad.
guess that's why I also love this podcast, because I think this podcast for all three of us has given us another avenue, to show our deeper, vulnerable side, to show our message, to show where we came from and where we are now.
Like when I work with personal brands, you look at all the assets, right?
Yeah.
And that can be, you're absolutely gorgeous. That's one of your assets,
Thank you.
right? And you got abs.
Was that
that's
the-
asset.
Keep going.
Right. Yeah. He did like his head's getting bigger.
Keep going.
So there's 5 things that stop people, there's 5 things that make people stand out in a big crowd. So we went down Martin Place, and everyone's just chock-a-block at lunchtime. It's only 5 things that stop you, and psychologically, one is something weird.
Yeah.
So like you're walking down the street, everyone's in suits, and you see someone with a pink onesie on.
100%.
Yes.
It's just like pattern disruption.
Yep.
100%. What's that? We all
That's right.
stop. Look.
Yep.
Yeah. Second thing is something status, like sexy.
Yep.
Rolex,
Yeah.
Lambo. It's rare, it's uncommon, it's aspiring. The third one is familiarity. So nostalgia. You're in a busy crowd at Martin Place, and your brain is blocking out so many things. Your brain, the front lobe of brain's blocking out so much noise, but you hear Jamie, and it cuts through because you're tuned to familiarity.
100%.
Interesting. Yeah.
Fourth is gifts.
Yeah.
So I'm going to give you a free program. I'm going to give you Forbes magazines for free. Yeah, and the other one is danger.
Yeah. Okay.
Wow.
So don't fall down here. Here's a big red sign. You're going to die.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll change my behavior and go around it. And those things, if you can bake them into content stuff, that's the traffic.
Yeah,
100%.
wow, that's
100%.
really powerful. We're gonna have to implement that. I
So
reckon.
don't be afraid of the abs. That's what I'm saying. Like, don't feel ashamed of your body in that way. And I know you wouldn't, but
Yeah. I know what
definitely
you
doesn't
mean.
feel ashamed.
but people who are
I feel
listening and
bad
they're
for
like,
them.
yeah. Well, that's the thing. It stops me. It's like, what's this handsome looking dude doing? Blah blah blah. And it's a bit. And I want to ask you this, Jamie. Like, do you know you mentioned like 2 seconds, 3 seconds? Is there a duration of watch time that brands you work with go, that's pretty impressive?
Yeah, I'll be honest. Brands don't really ask that often about viewer retention.
Okay,
It's more so about views and if there's some sort of call to action at the end.
nice.
How many signups? There's a variety of metrics, I guess, that you have to sort of go through. But what I have noticed is it's getting shorter and shorter every single time. So the pink onesie analogy definitely works.
I really do love the 5 points you said,
Yeah, really
and I
good.
definitely think we should all three of us start
Definitely
implementing
implement
that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That's
really
awesome.
good.
So, obviously we've spoken a lot about the practicalities of branding and, making your story your superpower. But, Matt, one thing that you said to us off camera, which I found very intriguing and something that I'd love to dive into for the last bit of this episode is, your faith in God. And you mentioned that you hadn't really shared, a bunch of this online and on camera before. And something the boys and I have been really excited to sort of delve into with you because, as you know, Christian men and men of God, we really find that as the foundation of, not just ourselves, but also our own individual personal brands. So we'd love to, bring you back into sort of like, how does your faith in God and what you believe help you with your identity, and how can people out there, for example, the boys watching, use that as well?
Yeah, so my faith in God pretty much makes my identity complete. So I don't feel like I'm in any need to prove myself to everybody. Although you know the rules of the game of how the world works, there's evidence that's required to believe in certain people. I get that, but in terms of yourself, you have to choose an employer. Like I believe that you have to render your knee to someone. It's either the exterior energy, or that's my employer, or it's God who's my employer, and they give me their rules and they give me their
Love
purposes for me.
That's so
Because
good.
the external energy have plans for me.
Yep.
They say you fit in this box and that's fine, and your potential is about this. My employer up here says I made you for these reasons. You're a good player for whatever play you want to do in the world, but you're made for greater things.
Yeah.
And my adoption really actually makes a lot of sense with salvation. So when I was born, I was given a name. It was called Byongdong-gu. And my mum gave birth to me in the barn floor. She doesn't know it. My dad doesn't know I exist. And next door neighbor delivered me, and I'm kind of like Asian Jesus because I was born at barn floor.
Wow, yeah.
Asian Jesus. But like she gave me up to an orphanage because she knew that name would represent shame.
Wow.
Yeah, it would represent so many things. And out of no merit of my own, 2 Aussie parents came and got me and brought me back to Australia, gave me a new name. And I got to inherit everything an Australian does, not because of my earnings, but because I was just chosen.
Wow.
Right? And that's the gospel, is that my name as Matt Purcell, I'm a sinner. I'm absolutely fall short of everything that I want to be as a person. And it's so hard. I can have good days and bad days, but never, ever perfect. And that's sinning, and I'm falling short. That's what sin means in archery, is to miss the mark. And what that means is that God adopted me into his family, and that's what it says in the Bible in Ephesians 1. It says that he gave me a new name. You know, I receive an identity. I don't achieve an identity. That's the big difference. Yep. So receiving identity. And another parable which really got to me as a kid, and it makes so much sense, is the parable of the lost son. And for those who, it always breaks me up because it's everyone in this story is one of us. Like the parable of the lost son is, the father gets approached by one of his sons and says, "Dad, I want the inheritance now," which basically means I want you dead now, because in order to get the inheritance, I need you to be dead.
Yep.
And he gave it to him. Go for it. So he squanders it all on cocaine and women and everything. And then there's a famine that hits, and then he is poor, and his friends go pow, and they're all disappeared. And then he's now he's feeding pigs, and he can't even eat their food. He's like, if I just go back to the father, my dad, at least I can beg him to be a servant. The servants have a better feed than the pigs. You guys know this, but people might not know. And to stay with me if you're listening, because then he goes back, and then his dad's like, the son's like rehearsing a speech, and the dad's like sees him from afar, runs and hugs him and says, "My son's returned. He was lost, but now he's found. Bring the ring and the thongs and everything, crown him, and slaughter the fattened calf, and let's celebrate." And then the older son, who had been a good boy, goes, "What the hell are you doing? Like, I've been here the whole time. You didn't kill anything for me. I just been working for you." He's like, "Listen, like you'll get your reward, but like your son, your brother was lost, but now he's found. He was dead, now he's alive." Now the whole point of that is, there's a part of us that is the lost son. Something in us that all wants to rebel. Some of us that goes, I need to just, says don't touch, but I'm going to touch, right?
Yeah.
And then the other part of the older brother is our logic and our intellect. It goes, doesn't make sense why you'd accept him back, Dad. Like, he's an idiot. He squandered all your money. Like, you should just judge him.
Yeah.
And then there's the person that's like God, who is like, that's the true self. You're returning to yourself.
Yeah.
His true identity wasn't in if he had money or not. It was always there. It was always enough.
That's so powerful.
That's amazing.
It was always enough.
good.
So
Yeah.
sometimes we have to break things to realize that they were valuable. Sometimes we go on a path where, you got to go through that journey, but to return yourself, which is God, to say, I never needed any of that. and it's so relieving to me. So
amazing.
when I'm in the world, like it's always a tension for our identity. Like I'm always battling this in my head to the day we die. Like, who will I be today? Which employer will I work for?
Yeah, you're so right. It's a daily decision as well.
100%. Yeah, well. And you know, I think as well, like having that identity, because obviously in the world today there's so much confusion about identity. And I think, as you said, like what keeps me personally grounded, and I know all of us boys here and many of the guys watching in the locker room, you know, that identity in Christ is really what fixates our knowing of who we are. And I think that when you have that sort of knowledge and firmness and foundation in just who you are and who you know you are, it just makes life so much easier, because, you know, as humans, we're so lost with, you know, in the Bible it talks about fleshly desires and living for the world. But when you kind of just like narrow it right back down and you're like, actually, no, my only identity lies in, you know, Jesus or God, it just brings you back to simplicity. And I think simplicity is something that we all struggle with, whether we know it or not, because in our day to day, we have so many millions of things, you know, going on, so many tasks, so many responsibilities, and then we get lost half the time. And then as time goes on, we forget about who we are. But when you have that identity in God, and I'm sure you can kind of resonate in you boys as well, it's like you're just never confused. And there's that fulfillment
100%.
and constant knowing of who you are. And it's the greatest blessing of all time, in my opinion.
I guess a good way to maybe sum up the podcast today is, you know, for our viewers home, what would be 3 take home? And I don't want to put you on the spot, but I know you're good at this. What are 3 final main points, taking into consideration everything we've talked about, that we can leave the viewers with?
Yeah, if you want to build a personal brand, start with thinking like building a house. So you got to start with the invisible part, because if you skip that, and it's the hardest part, you're just going to look like a project home. Like every single one. There's so many project home personal brands now. It's like everyone's just trying to talk down the barrel, look like Alex or Mosey and all that stuff. But you've got to like do the time to figure out your own story and turn it into a marketing tool. And you do that by the 3 things I said before: story gather, find stories that relate to your timeline that people can connect with, pain and successes and discovery and learning and the villains in your life. Then do a craft. So you're connecting those stories to a point. So the brand has to be like, this is what I stand for as a person. You know, I stand for high performance, or I stand for productivity, or I stand for this type of genre. And you start connecting it to it. Or you just got a story of no point, you sound like a crazy person. And then the third thing is you've got to work on your delivery. So is it through written, practicing your skill on writing, practicing your camera skills, and just bloody know that anything, like, you know, everyone here, like, we were shit when we started.
Yeah,
100%, man.
Like, it was so awful.
100%.
Like, I mean, before you were big, and toned,
He was born
it was
big.
the pink dumbbells, right?
100%. 100%, man.
1
we
kilo
we all start somewhere.
yeah, love that.
Yeah.
You got to start there. So, like, look at that. The second thing about faith is that the quickest way to be able to change your world is to change your environment.
Wow.
Change your world, change your mates. And then with business stuff, I'm a bit different to some guys. There's a lot of guys out there that say, when you hit 6 figures, 7,
Yeah.
7, get to 8, get to 9.
Always more, yeah.
It's always more. I say success is defined by when enough is enough for you. So, like, go, what do I ask this? This is a question I actually have as a sticky note on my computer at the moment. It's like, what do I want from it? So there's a difference between knowing why I got into it. Everyone in this table could say, I'm doing this because of this reason. But what do you want from it?
Yeah.
And that's a different set of questions.
100%.
So from this business, what do I want from it? I want to be home by 6. I want to be on 3 holidays a year with my kids. I want to have a nice car and blah, blah, blah. I want that business to be that mode of transport for me to have that.
Interesting.
Great. So that's success. Fantastic.
Well, that's the perfect way to wrap it up. We got so much value. I learned so much from that. It was just cool to even sit here and listen the whole time.
And if the viewers out there want to find you and work with you with personal branding or any services you offer, where can they find you?
Oh, just Chong Maya. Yeah, Matt Purcell. Just type in that. And
Matt Purcell, cool.
Awesome.
What an amazing episode, guys. Thank you so much, Matt, for jumping on the podcast. We took so much from it. And yeah, guys, make sure you let us know what you thought of this episode, anything you took away. And yeah, make sure you hit up Matt. He's obviously great at what he does. And to conclude this episode, we're going to end with our sponsor, Getaways. Sydney's a very big city, and you don't always get this view everywhere. You know, this is the most iconic landmarks in the entire city, in the entire country, most likely. And shout out to Getaways. You know, these guys have been amazing to us in terms of allowing us to use their facilities to do this podcast every single week. So if you guys do want to check them out, make sure to go to getaways.com.au or look in the link in the description below.